Leader Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me start at the outset by congratulating you as the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission for the statements you made this morning and the advisory you gave members yesterday, which helped to bring down the temperatures that were beginning to be fanned, and the fire that were being fanned by activists all over, saying, almost creating the situation that Parliament is illegitimate. But you've helped, first of all, in terms of reasserting the legitimacy of Parliament and putting facts so that people did not know. The issue here, and I believe the Constitution, when we adopted it, and the clamour for the new Constitution between all the way up to 2010 was all about serving the greater public interest and improvement in the governance of the country. Now, I'll come to that later, but one must ask, on all the issues that have been brought, the quagmire that we are in now is, where is the greater public interest being served? Right now, we are spending this time debating a matter that we need not have debated if the Chief Justice did not do what he did. We would have been passing bills. A lot of energy is being consumed around the country with lots of anxiety and people not sure what will happen next. Staff, these members of Parliament, 400 members of Parliament, 414, including Senate, each has about 10 members of Parliament, 10 members of staff. So collectively, there's 4,000 members of staff who are not sure whether they will be going home or not, and their families, who are now full of anxiety. Are they going home or not? Because once you leave, your constituency office is dissolved. And all those families who are relying on you, the 4,000 families who are relying on members of Parliament, will have to go home. So there's a bigger picture that perhaps the CJ may not have looked at. The international community is watching. That's why with activists saying that even decisions that are going to be made by this Parliament will be legitimate. Where do you place Kenya in terms of its predictability on policy, on decision making? Because those are some of the fundamental issues that a responsible Chief Justice ought to have looked and said, if I make the decision, what are the bigger implications? It's not just about saying simplistically that 261(7) gives me the right to convey a decision to the president. And if it was so simplistic, it would have been conveyed in 2015, 2017. But the Chief Justice then realized it was not exactly, or perhaps the advisory he had, realized you could not do that. Yet it was perhaps the best time because the election was just around the corner. But here we are with 2 years to go, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of financial crunch, in the middle of so many things happening, and all we are thinking of is send one arm of the government off, and then you're not even thinking of when you are off, when you are gone, within the 21 days he thinks we should go, who will appropriate the money for the election? Because you will not be there. Who will even oversight the executive and the judiciary when you don't have one arm of the government, in place? But let me ignore those, the pros and cons of his decision, because I believe it's been canvassed and there'll be more people talking about it. Let me come back to the 2/3 gender rule. So, Speaker, we were with you in Bomas. Certainly, I was there from 2003. Mr. Speaker, you were there even earlier. and with Honorable Shakil and others. And it's a very complex situation because it was not exactly legal. It was a politically expedient decision that was made, and the genesis of it was the composition of the delegates in Bomas. Was from every constituency. There was a member of parliament, there was one woman, and one man. So there was 3 delegates from every constituency. Then there are a few civil society, but also respecting that kind of configuration. And when we sat and we were getting close in the discussions, as part of the negotiations so that Bomas could be passed, it was said, the lady delegates in Bomas said, now that we are 1/3 here, we also want to be 1/3 in all their positions. That's how the 1/3 came. I mean, it was that simple. That's why it was not 40% or 50%. And I think it's important we go back in history to understand the genesis of some of these things. Now, at that point, in Bomas, then the question became, how do we ensure that we are going to bring 1/3 of the women? Examples were given about Rwanda. Examples were given about Uganda. But the first thing that came out was Uganda is not exactly the democracy. And I'm not saying that as discussing how they operate. Even Rwanda. The autocratic rule determines who stands. It's not exactly the same in Kenya. So figures were, options were battled around. And a clause was included that to ensure that we will have the women, we will have what was referred to then as the mixed member representation. And that we would forget about constituency-based first past the post. We will now go the South African route, where parties will propose, will vie for the seats, and then there will be apportioned seats in parliament. And then they are going to nominate candidates on a zebra system. That's how the first zebra system was being discussed in Bomas. So there will be a man and a woman, in which case, at any one time, when you pick all those things, you ensure that at least 1/3 or even 50% is represented. But when you are in Bomas, the same mixed member representation, which was the anchor of ensuring that this 1/3 is fulfilled, and on which basis it had been included in Article 27, on what basis it had been included in Article 81B, that the electoral system shall ensure that 1/3. Yeah? Members in Bomas said they do not want that kind of system. They all want to elect their person. They want to know that this is Amos, Kimunya, who are electing for Kibeperi. They don't want to be told that as a party you elected Jubilee with 206, and then the people are taken to them. That is the same basis that they said, even for the chairman of the councils. Remember, the chairman of the councils and the mayors used to be elected by the councillors. They said, even for those, they want to do direct election. That's how governors ended up being directly elected. Because people say they want to feel the person they have elected. It's important you gather history so that you know that this thing, although it had been included, agreed in principle, and 2 articles had been drafted on the understanding that it's a mixed member zebra situation, Article 27.3 and Article 81B. They had been drafted with that in mind. But when the mixed member system of election was dropped, nobody bothered to look and harmonize 27.3 and 81B to now reflect the new situation. At the county level, it was agreed that the 14 functions that have been devolved are so close to the people that it's important to get the people to actually be represented in the decision making. All right? And at that point, there was no debate that at that county, in the wards, at the county level, because of the sensitivity of the issues that have been devolved, the people needed to be represented. Much to do with what the Jefferson was calling the world republics, right? That get people involved in the decision making at the local level. And at the Senate, it was the same because it was overseeing the local level. That's how the names were included. But in the National Assembly, remember it was supposed to be mixed member because it was not, there's no way you're going to get mixed member in the Senate because the Senate is a person for every county, right? But for Parliament, it was to represent the party, to bring its people. Now, but even in the Senate, the 16 women delegates, the nominees, don't have voting rights on a county issue. But they can vote on all other matters being debated in the Senate. Because it was for purposes of other issues to do with women at the local level, right? Affecting people at the local level on the 14 devolved functions. Anyway, be that as it may, unfortunately, Bomas did not succeed. 205 was defeated. At 2010, the new constitution, the council, the committee of experts with the harmonized draft and all that, removed some things, tinkered around, but forgot to harmonize the new first past the post with the provisions that had already been included in 27.3 and in 81B. And we are in this quagmire. Article 1 puts the power, the sovereign power of the people to decide on the Kenyan people. It's them to determine who they want to represent them. So, in the absence of the system of voting being included in the Constitution, creating that zebra style, any other you put will be in contradiction to Article 1. I'm not a lawyer, but I was in Bomas. And I followed that discussion. And I followed that discussion ever since. We brought the first amendment here with Mother Karua. I was in this parliament. I was in government. We brought the second amendment with Honorable Mutula, the late Mutula Kilonzo. We were here. And we were told this thing is going nowhere. You are bringing a contradiction between Article 1 and whatever you're trying to bring under whatever article. So, we are in this situation, and I think, members, we need to then figure out how do we ensure the 30%, the 40%, and the advisory that was given in 2015 said it is progressive. It's not just about laws. It's about affirmative action. How do you empower the girl child? How do you empower the women out there to have the power to be able to run for office? So it's a bigger issue. And we cannot achieve it here by just saying that pass a law to actualize a 2/3 gender rule. Yeah? You cannot do that without breaking another one within the Constitution. So as John Buddy says, it's an opportunity we have when we do a comprehensive review of the Constitution to say, do we want mixed member so we can have the zebra situation? Or do we want to then say Kenyans can now afford a bigger parliament with another 80 extra ladies being voted here, yeah, and how it's determined, yeah, to avoid all those issues of people feeling that perhaps is the wrong thing, so that we can get the parity that we want. But let me not, I think that will happen at some point. And what I would wish is even as we debate on this matter, we have 70 plus members of parliament who are ladies in this house. I would like to start a conversation with them so that the 70, we take them to a retreat somewhere. Whether it's for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we lock them there and tell us, give us the solution to how we are going to sort out the 2/3 gender rule. No, it's my proposal. Because at the end of the day, the question, the question that we get asked as men when we go promoting and saying we need more women in parliament, the first question that you are asked, even those who are there, what have they done? We get asked that question. We get asked that question. And of course, it's me who is asked. So, but I want to see. I know you've done a lot. That's relative. But be that as it may, Honorable Speaker, I think as a parliament, and I'm sure we have gone through this before, the Committee on Implementation of the Constitution has gone through all the laws that we were supposed to pass. And the only law that was outstanding was the law to actualize Article 100, which this House passed in March. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing that was anticipated through 2261(7) that this House has not done. But it's something that perhaps the CJ was obviously ignored, including saying, quoting a law, which we've done, and saying we have not informed him that we've actually done, although we know we have done. So perhaps, so that we just, I don't talk forever, I think the most important thing is going forward, what we need to do. And on the issue of the gender rule and all that, we have done 100. So people will see whether it's good or not when it comes from Senate. In terms of the constitutional changes, I believe there's a framework that's already in the air through the Building Bridges initiative. Perhaps we need to revisit that and pulling together, not just thinking of BBI as a political thing, but as a vehicle towards changing the laws of this country to actualize the desires of the people at that point. But as a House, we are under threat, and we know. And I started by saying, Mr. Speaker, that we congratulate you for what you did. But even as you go to court, this matter is now in the hands of His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And I know we are putting our efforts on the Chief Justice, but we are perhaps forgetting the only person who can ensure sanity in this country for the next 2 years is only the President. And I would like the House that we join together in appealing to the President to consider, as he has always done, the bigger public interest. As he makes that decision, as he reads that advisory, which I'm sure probably was even sent by Twitter or by email, as he considers that decision to apply his conscience to the bigger public interest, to the special circumstances that this country is in, and to avoid giving in to activism. We know he respected the decision of the Chief Justice in 2017 and actually agreed to a repeat of the election because to demonstrate respect for the rule of law. But here, we are not sure is the rule of law being applied. So we would appeal to him to ignore the activism that has been shown and act in that bigger interest and save this country from chaos. There is no way, Mr. Speaker, the solution to a problem can be worse than the problem. And like Solomon, the biblical Solomon, it's time for the president to decide whether to kill the baby or to save the baby. Because that is the situation we are in. And I think as a House, if we get we are all committed towards that, then we will be saved as a House so we can save this nation and move together. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.